if you put it in gallery mode, you can see everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Are you having the monsoons? Oh, it's so nice to see everyone.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
You know, this is actually better than when you're all in the temple, because in the temple, well, we can't see you all. Now we see each of your faces.
Yeah, this is nice.
Oh,
Oh.
so nice.
And we've got, you know, people also tuning in from outside, so to speak, like Bonnie is in Maryland right now with her daughter, but there she is.
Hi, Bonnie.
For us, it's the lower left corner.
Yes, we see Bonnie.
Yeah. And so
Oh, you're visiting family, Bonnie? I guess she has her mute on.
everybody's more or less muted for the sake of
Okay.
simplicity right
Just for
now.
this section.
Sorry, but
No, that's okay. We understand. It gets chaotic if it isn't muted.
we have a range of people also, including some people who just took Kriya and some people who just took discipleship and even some people who are in the level 2 classes. They all wanted to come and join in for this.
Oh, very nice. It's nice to have as many people as possible joining, of course.
And
That's,
there are more than you can see right now.
Some
Of
don't have
course.
their cameras on. If everyone wants to put their camera on to say hi, to start out, some don't have the bandwidth.
right.
To do it.
Uh-huh.
Well, very nice to see you all too. Shall we? We're going to switch back to seeing Jyotish ji and Devi ji full screen here. Do you want to begin with a prayer?
Okay. I'll just do the prayer rather than try to repeat it. It's better if there's a delay like now. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, beloved Swamiji, we humbly bow to you all. Bless our lives with your grace and your guidance. Help us listen to your whispers that come in our heart and in our conscience, that we might align our energies with your divine energies. In this way, we can live in harmony with you and with all of your projections, all of our friends and neighbors, everyone throughout the world. And bless this world with your healing light, your healing energies. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So we have 65.
Very good.
So would you two like to give a little update or anything before how the village is doing or something before getting into the questions and answers or whatever?
Sure. We can, not so much how a little bit about the village, but just to share some thoughts before we start on the questions and answers. The village, just briefly, is doing extremely well. We've been very strict here, and masks are worn in public, and we don't have social gatherings, just as you are doing. And we've been fortunate that no one at the village thus far has gotten the virus, but we're able to shift things in our operations. Our retreat facility, which many of you visited for the 100th anniversary, the 50th anniversary, excuse me, is closed down, and the meditation retreat is closed down. We can't have outside people coming, but we've moved a lot of our outreach, as you all have, to online. And it's been very, very effective. We're reaching many, many more people. And so it's just a matter of adapting to what is. But, you know, I know your area has been hit. I mean, the United States is number number one in the world, a dubious distinction, but with the number of coronavirus cases. But really, and I know India, uh, I think India is number two now. So, but I think, and we'll get into this more in the questions, but really, I see so many opportunities coming from this experience that it's changing our lives. And maybe they'll never go back to the way they were. But with the grace of God and Guru, we can go deeper in what's important to us, in our spiritual life, in our sadhana, in our drawing God into our lives moment by moment. So there are many good things that are coming from this. And we have to understand that the world is, it's not, there are forces at play, the grace of the masters, of Babaji, of our line of gurus, of other great saints, that are, as we read in autobiography, they're directing the evolution, the spiritual evolution of this planet. And so even though this seems like a very difficult time and probably will get worse before it gets better, nevertheless, we just have to realize that it's part of a grand drama, much bigger than each of our individual lives and or any one nation, perhaps even of the whole planet. There are grand cycles of time and of this whole creation of God's. And just to try to keep that in mind, a few nights ago, we went out late at night to see this comet. I think it's called New Oz, and it was amazing. It comes. It's visible every 6,800 years. It passes within close proximity, so it's visible, and you could see it. It was about 10 o'clock at night. All was dark. And you could see it with the naked eye, but we also had good binoculars. And it was actually so inspiring because you just saw this heavenly body moving across the sky with a huge comet's tail, very intense center, but this huge tail behind it. And you just thought, wow, there's so much more going on than our little life and our country, our planet, and that there are these, this heavenly body comes by every almost 7,000 years. And here we are seeing it now. And, it puts things in perspective that things are so much bigger and vaster than what we see in any particular day. And it really gives one a sense of perspective that one little life is, we don't want to die, but if it happens, we do, and prematurely. But anyway, I'll let Jyotish share his thoughts as well. But we just wanted to send our love. I have to say that the people, the devotees of Chennai are so dear, and you remain so close with us. And we're just very happy we can be with you today.
Yeah, we really feel, and this is sincere, that you're our Indian family. And, I know that many of you have family around the world, especially in the UK or in the US, that maybe you come and visit. Well, we're the reverse. We're the Indian expatriates who get to go back home and visit our family, and you're our family when we're in India. Just briefly, and then we'll go on to have a chat with Dharmarachan and Dharmini. But Ananda, around the world, in many ways, this is a golden age for our work. You know, in many cases, changes are forced on you that you would not make by yourself. There's a kind of a momentum. A year ago, if we had said to all of you when we were visiting, oh, we're going to close the center, none of you can come there, and we won't be visiting for a year or two, but it's all going to be really better than it is now. You'd have thought we were crazy. But in fact, it's turned out that way, that we're reaching many, many more people. That doesn't mean that in the future we shouldn't be meeting in person. Of course we should. But what it has happened is that from now on, I'm sure there's going to be a kind of a hybrid where a lot of our classes, a lot of outreach is done through the internet and through these kinds of meetings, because many, many more people can come to these kinds of meetings than can come in person. And so Ananda around the world is reaching out, and in many cases, I would say, if we looked at the whole average, we're reaching between 2 and 3 times as many people as we were 6 months ago. And if someone had said that that was going to be the result for Ananda's work of a worldwide pandemic, as I say, we would have thought that they were crazy. And then I'll just end, and then we can go on to questions and answers. And just chatting with our friends. But you know, if you're a teacher and you have a class and the class has gotten quite unruly and they're misbehaving, sometimes you just have to say as the teacher, all right, we're going to take a time out. Everybody stop what they're doing. Everybody just put your pencils down. Don't talk for the next 10 minutes. Stay apart. Don't interact with each other. We just need to calm down. It's like you reset the nervous system of that class. Well, I think that God is resetting the nervous system of planet Earth right now, because we have been misbehaving. We've been too caught up, too rajasic, too greedy, too many too things. And so we need a timeout. And this disease is giving us that timeout. Now, not everybody in that class with the teacher is now going to go and change their behaviors after the time is up. And we can't expect that, but we want to be the good students. So we want to change our patterns. We want to change our habits. We want to change our way of relating to other people, open our hearts more, expand our consciousness more, relate to people in such a way that we care about others more than we did before the time out. And so for us, this is going to be a very positive thing spiritually. For others, they will see it as a terrible thing and a terrible test. And in fact, there will be tragedies. You know, people will, some dear ones may get ill, some dear ones may even die. But we're all going to do that in not too many years anyway. The real key is to learn our lessons and grow from whatever God gives us. Okay, let's go on and just chat a little bit. So,
Well, just sort of tacking on to what you both had said about reaching more people, we wanted to just add on to that our deep appreciation for Spiritual Renewal Week being opened up in such a way that people could attend. As you know, 50 people from here attended, most of them in real time, which is, of course, it was late at night. People setting their alarms for 3:30 a.m. for the Kriya
Oh,
initiation, or, but we had to really make a strong case for what is Spiritual Renewal Week and how it began in 1968 or 69, how, the whole history, but how this is a big thing to relate to. But it was basically a campaign. Now that everybody's been able to experience it, they know and are already looking forward to next year. And so anyway, we're just so grateful to have been able to logistically be included in it.
that's wonderful. And thank you, Dharmarajan, also for your really superb talk.
Yes.
We've been working our way through them. We didn't get to watch them all during the week, but we've been working our way through them, and they're treasures. And the beauty of having it all pre-recorded is that you can go back and listen. It's like having this wonderful archive of wonderful talks. And we've gotten maybe some of you who were here last year remember Nityananda and Lalan. They're the directors of the Expanding Light. Lalan did a little analysis, and we had, for those of you who like numbers, 151 greater percent of attendance for Spiritual Renewal Week this year than we have had in the past, which is pretty astounding. But
And that's just estimating on the low end, because for every computer, that's counting the computers that were tuned in.
Yeah.
Because but many of those had groups watching.
Yeah.
So at any rate,
And
it was a great success.
And so we realized, and we got many comments from people all over the world of gratitude for doing this. And so we'll continue this format. God willing, next year people can come in person, but that's a limited number of people. But we'll continue having a rich, varied online offering for everyone. So this is, again, this was a new doorway that opened for us. And so anyway, it was lots of fun. And all we keep just saying is, Gyanamata said, when someone asked her if she would do anything different in her life, Gyanamata, Master's foremost woman disciple, she said, I wouldn't do anything different, just more and better. So that's our motto, more and better, to reach people, to share Master's incredible teachings.
One question we had, which you've already, I think, sort of psychically tuned into and answered, is the spiritual lessons of this time. We've talked a little bit about it so far on a planetary level or on a cultural level, but to think of it in terms also of, individuals are facing a change in life circumstance, and I'm talking about devotees because that's of course what we all are. But in terms of, we're getting used to it after 3 and 4 months, but also on the one hand it's familiar, on the other hand that's when signs of fatigue and strain can really start to show, especially as we're realizing this isn't going away quickly as perhaps some of us had hoped. In terms of our restricted movement, our missing actually being able to be together with like-minded souls, perhaps being together quite a bit with unlike-minded souls, and also just the unknown, because of course in Chennai we're having so many cases, it's very real for us. What do you think could be some of the spiritual lessons or spiritual opportunities, meaning the great benefits, not so much necessarily how to cope, although we can get into that later, but just what is the opportunity here for us as individual devotees?
Well, I'll start by giving a master key for how to get through anything in this world and how to thrive from it. And it goes deep into the center of our teachings, but this pandemic is bringing this out even in a clearer way than what we have seen before. The master key is this: the less you think about yourself, the more you think about others, the happier you'll be, the more successful you'll be, you'll have more courage. You'll do everything in a more expansive way, and it goes down to the very principle on which God has created this world, which is of duality, and that duality for us is between contraction and expansion. And so the more we expand our consciousness, the happier we are, the more successful we are, the more we're able to cope with things. And so this pandemic has given us a very, very good opportunity to put into practice that basic principle, one of the most important and fundamental principles of the spiritual life. So, put simply, don't think about yourself now. Don't think about, oh, what could happen to me? What could happen to my little family? Or as Master said, us four, no more. Don't worry about the small things. Think about how you can be a channel to help other people, how you can do something, maybe do a call or a Zoom call, anything to try to help other people, because people will be more receptive at this point to help. And in many cases, they'll be needier. Some people will. And so we as channels of Master, as trying to tune our will to him, how would Master behave during this time? How would Swami behave during this time? Well, they aren't in the body, so they have to use our bodies. And so the answer to all of the dilemmas of this is, let's try to be models of what Master and Swami would do during this time. And if we do that, we will not only survive this, we will thrive during this time and help others.
And I'll also add, Crystal, I want to mention something. If you see behind us, just let them see the bouquet.
Oh,
There's a beautiful bouquet of flowers on the table. We're sitting in our living room at Ananda Village, and many of you came to the dedication of the new temple, or you saw videos. So this was the bouquet that was on the altar there. They keep the altar beautiful, even though no one's going into the temple. So someone brought it over. They said the flowers, no one was enjoying them. So we brought them over to your house. And so now you can enjoy them too. So spiritual advantages for this time. I'll just speak personally. The Jyotish and I have not virtually left the house. We go for a nice walk every day out in nature. But we have left the house one time in 4 months. We go down to our market. We do that regularly. We had to go to town once for an appointment that had to happen. But so we're very, very homebound. And that begins, at first you start getting a little, someone used the term quarantine fatigue. But what I'm finding is that it really changes your consciousness much more, makes it much more interiorized. I have much less desire to, to go out and then shopping to town or whatever it might be, go on an outing. I find that my consciousness is interiorizing more. And I have to say it, my meditations are deeper because of it. So instead of, watch your energy. See when you get restless. See when you get irritable. See when you get reactive. And just realize, oh, it's just energy that's going out too much. I know people have I mean, sadly, you see statistics in the news that the incidence of domestic violence and child abuse is going up because people are kind of on top of each other. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. If you can draw your aura, not contract, but expand it inwardly, you feel, oh, I feel very present. I feel very strong in myself because I'm not all the little tentacles that go out to the world are just sort of getting cut off, and I'm able to pull that energy in. And during meditation, I really try to feel the energy just really going in my spine and just living in my, vibrating in my spine and up to the spiritual eye. Most of you have Kriya. Really spend more time with your Kriyas now. And if you don't have it, then I'm sure there's online preparation classes. But spiritually, there's so much we can gain from this period. And I think we're all going to be different when this time period begins to shift to being able to be more outward. But don't see it as a negative thing. See it as like Divine Mother is giving us the opportunity to really have an extended seclusion. And yes, we have to work. I mean, there's lots to be done, still emails and Zoom meetings and classes and so forth. But the consciousness can be interiorized and to find joy in that. I guess that's the core thought I'm trying to share. Jyotish said, think of serving others, and that's very important. But then that service should come from a deep place of spiritual centeredness within yourself. So we have the opportunity to do both.
That is really great. Very nice. Modi just announced men should be able to serve in the house just as much as the women.
Good for him. You know,
That'll shake people up.
you know,
I talked about that.
I have to praise people who are worthy of praise. You know, we used to have people that would come and help clean the house. Now we're not having anyone come, so we're doing it all ourselves. And Jyotish just very kindly, I hope I don't embarrass you by saying this, but he just said, what can I do? So we divided the stuff up, and he does things, I do things, and it's working very nicely. I don't know how long it will continue, but so far so good.
You know, one of the things that we're hearing from a lot of people is how, you know, they are in a crowded home situation, many of them, and there is some disharmony happening within the family, and or someone in the family has actually gotten COVID. So before, when this whole thing started, you know, it was always a friend of a friend of a friend.
Right.
And so now it's become my aunt or my uncle, that kind of stuff. And so I was just thinking maybe that people are experiencing a lot of worry. So obviously what you were saying about thinking of others, but maybe some very practical things that could help people with their worry, and also feeling overcrowded, because that time alone is precious, but sometimes it's a little difficult when the house is crowded, and you know, and also parents especially worrying about their children, you know, and that parental bond with the child is just, you know, it's very hard for people to stop. And you both have you know, children and grandchildren, so you know what they're talking about.
Yeah, you know, obviously we're concerned for those we love. And so I'll give some very practical advice. First of all, let me start with what Master said. Master said, take whatever, in situations like this, take whatever practical steps you can, and then Don't worry, leave the results to God. And so that's a very good maxim. It's hard for some people to apply that. But what are the practical steps that we can take? First of all, Devi and I and many here at Ananda get a weekly update that lasts more than an hour from our community physician, Dr. Peter. So every week, and we've had 43 of them. So we've had 43 hours of classes about the virus with a lot of detail. A great deal is unknown about it. A great deal of, I don't know, ways that it reacts, what the long-term effects are going to be, and so on. But a great deal is also known, and some of those things have become quite clear. I just read a study yesterday that said, and this is very practical and clear advice, it said even in those areas that are hit the worst, so they were talking about northern Italy and in China and in some spots, hot spots in India, even in those areas that are hit the worst, if people will do three things, mostly they will be protected. And those three things are wash your hands frequently, wear masks if you go out, and keep social distancing, physical distancing. And so just those three things. And if you do that, and you get your household to do that, that doesn't mean that within the household, Devi and I don't wear masks or keep social distancing within our household. But we do that whenever we go out, when we go to the market, for instance. We always wear a mask, and everybody, in fact, it's a community rule that you need to do that. But that is one reason that Ananda has been protected, is because we followed from the very beginning. Dr. Peter was smart enough, he's a brilliant physician. He could understand what was important, and he got everybody to follow those three simple things to do. And so the first thing is to institute those things in your household. So whatever it takes to convince people, if you can. I mean, some people will just refuse to do even the most commonsensical things. As our friend Dr. Peter said, you can't legislate against stupid. You know, so some people will just, no matter what the evidence, will refuse to do it. But if your household can follow those three rules, you'll be greatly on the side of being protected with that practical. And it's easy to do. It really is quite simple. And so that's basically the practical advice. And then within the house, what to do, you know, the more you can keep occupied and keep the energy flows positively, moving in a positive direction. It's when people are idle or they're too close to each other. If the energy drops, there will be friction. If you can keep the energy up and directed in some way, there will be harmony. And so practice those three simple rules, and then try to think of ways to keep the energy flowing in a positive direction within your household.
And I'll add a couple of things from Master's teachings as well that are practically applicable in this context. One, you know, so much of the problems, that interpersonal problems, are caused by the reactive process. So, you know, right now I see this in many people where they're reacting negatively. They're frustrated by the limitations, by the constraints they're anxious and stressed because of the worry, and it comes out with a heightened reactive process. So somebody bumps your chair and, why did you do that? I was trying to write something, and you react. So really, these are things I would suggest on a practical level, based on Master's teachings. One, create in your own personal life, you can't do it for everybody, but try to create a regime. So I will get up at this time, I will meditate at this time, then I will have breakfast at this time, then I will do my, whatever it is, but having systems in the time of unrest and uncertainty is very helpful psychologically. And then watch the reactive process. Swami said, and it's kind of a advice common. If you want to say something reactive or negative or critical, take a deep breath, count to 10, and then just say, do I really need to say that? I'm sort of creating for myself, I have this whole file of things that a mental file. Well, I really would have liked to say that, but I'm not going to. I'll put that in that file. And then you're so glad later you didn't say that. So control the reactive process and watch it. Watch it when you want to snap back at somebody. Just look at, okay, what's that going to do? They'll snap back at me. It's just like ping pong. So let it stop with you. Don't you be reactive. And then as far as worry and anxiety, Master gave a technique which I found in one of the wisdom books, which I had never seen before, but I'm actually doing this and it helps. And I'll tell you something personal. Last night, in the middle of the night, I was worried. I woke up and I couldn't get back to sleep. I was thinking about a number of my friends who are ill, stresses, people that are struggling in different situations. And so what Master said was, visualize in your mind a three-sided, a little triangle shape. And on each side, there's a word: peace, harmony, joy. Peace, harmony, joy. And I just did that last night for a while, and I fell asleep. And I woke up and I thought, oh, I broke through the worry cycle. So that was very helpful to me. And then one last thing for families that are kind of on top of each other and can't go out, especially with children, be creative. Don't just say, okay, well, let's turn on the television tonight. Maybe you someone just sent us, a friend in India, sent us this huge set of the Mahabharata in comic book, the graphic, and we're reading it. And so look at things you can do creatively with the family. Don't just say, oh, well, we're all stuck in this house. We might as well just, bear it and resent each other. What can you do that would be fun? One thing I'm doing a lot, and I think Jyotish is happy about it, is I'm just cooking all sorts of new dishes. Oh, look, I found a new recipe. And we have to tell you, on Sunday night, a friend of ours who's a Western American woman, but she spent a lot of time in India, she said, I want to make you an Indian dinner. And she came over. She made masala dosa. She had these beautiful brass tally plates with different little, the different little dishes. And it was so much fun. And she brought it over. She said, I just wanted to do something fun for you. So look at fun things you can do. We need to work hard to be positive now, is the point I'm making.
I have to break in here for just a moment because Devi has been doing a lot of experimental cooking, and she's a very good cook. So this is a good thing. I'm encouraging her in this enterprise. But Haridas Roma in Bangalore, the leaders there, Roma has been doing a lot of cooking too. And someone asked Haridas how it was going with this isolation. And he said, oh, it's delicious.
But so, essentially put energy into your family life. Don't take the people for granted. Don't take, it's hard on kids now. I mean, they have a lot of more outward energy. So make sure you're doing fun things with them. And we have two little grandchildren, an older one, but we haven't seen them for 3 months, but we talk on the phone every week, and how are you doing and what are you doing? And one of their other grandpa on the other side of the family, he reads them stories on Facebook. I mean, they can't get together physically, but I just thought how sweet that is. And so essentially look at things, positive things. Maybe you have, I don't know, a story night one night. Maybe you have a puzzle night one night or a game night, but try to make your home a place of fun and upliftment. And, by the way, if you have not listened to the stories from Morally, he gave one during Spiritual Renewal Week. He tells stories from the Indian scriptures. He's originally from Bangalore. Now he lives in Seattle. But he's from a family of storytellers, temple storytellers. And he has told one on the origin of the Gayatri Mantra, one on the most recent one for Spiritual Renewal Week was on the story of Ganga.
The descent of
The
Ganga.
descent of Ganga. And there was a third one too, maybe Dharmarashan or Dharmini remember. But
King Harish Chandra, I think.
Yes, that's right. But they're all on YouTube video. They are each about an hour. And oh my goodness, they are just enthralling. So, you get the point we're making. Don't just be passive and think that things are going to go well. You have to be dynamic and put out creative, positive energy in your home.
Yeah, I think if the Gita were getting rewritten, that when Krishna began to say among, rulers, I am Bharat, or whatever he said in the Gita, he would probably say, among storytellers, I am Murali.
And those are so nice because they have such a broad appeal. In other words, an Ananda devotee here could easily share that, with their relatives.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You could change it. Well, we have, I was thinking of did you have a, we've heard that, God, Swamiji and Master both said in times like this, those who love God will be protected. And I think, we're seeing a lot of that in what's happening here. For one thing, a number of people have said just the ability to connect with Ananda online in a personal way, even like we are right now, is a great protection. And people have said that, it's so nice to not just be locked in my home. I was thinking about how when Devi ji was saying how nice it is to be at home, how many lifetimes we've had in caves, and how often we'll find people coming onto the path saying, oh, I just wish I could have my simple cave life again. I'm sure adding a lot of rosiness to whatever the reality was. But anyway, it seems that all of our prayers were answered, and we're now all in our caves, even now in this life. But in terms of God's protection, do you have, if you would care to share, times in your own lives in the past where you felt either the need for God's protection, or you felt you were in a situation, of course not like this, because this is a brand new situation, but similar, a situation that was either out of control or affecting so many people that there wasn't more you could do beyond what Jyotish was saying, do what you can do outwardly and then give it to God. But at the same time, these things can be worrying, as Devi ji was saying too, where you saw God's protection, or you felt, sometimes it's just a feeling, in a very specific way, that protection coming in, if you might not have felt it at first.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I'll answer it for my part on different levels, because first of all, we have to understand, what does God's protection look like? So often we think only on a physical plane. So does God's protection look like we're never going to get sick, or we're never going to lose a job, or we're never going to some practical thing of that nature? And then when it happens, we think, oh, God has abandoned me. Well, that's not at all. We're multi-leveled beings. So it's actually better to pray that God's will be done than to pray for a particular outcome. If we pray in that way, then we move to the next level of protection, which is God will protect us mentally and emotionally. And so even if we're going to go through a hard time, we're receiving the openness to God's protection, so we don't worry so much about it. We don't fret. We don't get angry. We don't have negative emotions. We accept what is happening. And if possible, then the third level of protection is spiritual. And so when something difficult happens, if we pray to be in tune with God and to do God's will, then whatever happens will be for our spiritual benefit. Now, since you asked, I'll relate just a personal example of this. Many of you know that some years ago, this was the year before Swami's passing, I was diagnosed with a cancer. And when I got the diagnosis, Devi and I were together, and our friend Dr. Peter, he was very sad to have to give the diagnosis. He gave that diagnosis. I was, for about 5 minutes, I was shaken by it. And then somehow, through the grace of God, through the long practices that we've done, after it took about 5 minutes, I switched into the mode of, God, I know this is coming from you. Whatever happens, it's your will, and I offer myself into your hands. Now, I didn't, even in that first thought, pray, oh, take this away. Oh, fix my body. Oh, make the cancer go away. My reaction was to be in tune with God and with God's will and with Master. When we went the next day to tell Swami about this, he said, oh, don't worry about it. It's not going to be serious. Master has too much to do through you yet to allow this to be serious. But see, he didn't go to the level of physical either. He went to the level of attunement with the Guru and service to the Guru. You have too much Guru Seva, so don't worry about what's happening on the physical plane. And so let's not confuse protection as being the body is protected, or the habits that maybe are not good for us are protected. In this case, my body was protected. But if it hadn't been, I was willing to and ready to accept that also. So, in fact, this path that we have is extremely powerful. Kriya Yoga is the best technique available in this age. And these masters are great, great masters. So tune yourself to them and let the results go wherever they will. But the real protection is them inspiring you to attune your will to their will.
Jyotish, I wonder, had you written that story in one of your blogs?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't share it too widely. Just on occasion when I think that it's helpful for a situation.
And I'll also tell a story about personal protection. This was well, it was the second summer of being at Ananda for me. So it was about a year after I had come, this took place. So this was 1970, a long time ago. And Swami had a friend, a doctor, who lived in Sacramento, the city of Sacramento, California, which is about an hour and a half away from Ananda Village. And this doctor was moving offices, and this was in the days before computers, so it was paper files. And he asked Swami if he could send some people down to help box up all the files and help him get ready to move his office. So Shivani, who lives in Assisi, many of you know her, she and I went down for the weekend to help Dr. Reynolds. And then Swami was also giving a talk in Sacramento. So we were driving back at the end of the weekend, and Dr. Reynolds was driving in his car. Swami was sitting in the passenger seat. Dr. Reynolds was driving. Shivani and I were in the back seat. And the traffic was quite heavy. It was a big freeway, so it was moving quickly, but very crowded. And right in front of us, of our car, was another car with a trailer hitched onto it that was hauling something. And we're driving along, and then Swami just very quietly said, you know, that trailer hitch does not look secure. Let's pull in front of that car. And so the driver, his friend, Dr. Reynolds, got into the other lane, pulled forward, and just as we were adjacent to that car, side by side, parallel, that trailer hitch broke. And we were going fast. I mean, traffic was moving quite fast. And that trailer began spinning around on the freeway. And right behind us, we could see it in the rearview mirror, was this terrible many-car pileup. There was nothing we could do. We couldn't stop, because if we stopped, we would have gotten, hit from behind. So we just had to keep driving. But it was like this, no one said anything for the whole rest of the journey, because it was so clear in that moment that God had said to Swamiji, because Swami had so much to do for Master, this is a dangerous situation, go forward. And we just avoided that. So, and that's one of many, many stories we could each share, whether to us personally or to other devotees. But I think the point really is to have faith in God, to depend on God in your life, and now particularly to practice God's presence as much as you can. Be inwardly chanting, be trying to think of God, trying to feel, we were talking about interpersonal stress and perhaps negativity, to try to love all with God's love. See that person as God sees them, not as, oh, that's my grumpy aunt that's always complaining, but see that person as God sees them and love them as God loves them and depend on that flow. That's the greatest protection in the world. And so
That's our phone ringing. We'll just ignore it.
Yeah.
And then recognize the little things that happen are often signs of grace. There's a joke of this man who is trying to go to a job interview, and it's a crowded city, and he can't find a place to park. And so he said,
And he doesn't believe
he
in
doesn't
God.
believe in God, but he says, God, I really need a parking place. If you exist, open up a parking place and then I'll believe in you. And just then a car that was parked pulls out and the parking place right in front of the place that he has the interview opens up. And he says, oh, forget it, God, I've got this one.
Look for that in an upcoming blog, actually.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So God helps us all the time, but we just don't recognize it. We think, oh, I did this myself.
Do
How
we have-
clever I was to pull him out from behind that car.
You know, both of your stories have this element of, which obviously comes from years of meditation and also being with Swamiji, even in the moment during this time, of accepting the difficult circumstance rather than pushing it away and saying, no, this shouldn't be happening. And I was wondering if there was more to say about that, because it's such an important element of facing a difficult circumstance.
Very good question.
Yeah, very good question. You know, this is a skill that can be practiced. So many things on the spiritual path are really quite simple. We just don't put them into effect. So we can train ourselves to basically say many times each day when something comes, thank you, God. We can do it when it's positive, and we can do it when it's negative. And if we do that for the little things, someone comes by with flowers, thank you, God. Recognize that that was God in that form doing it. You go out for a walk and it's too hot, thank you, God. Whatever it is, in little ways, if you practice in little ways, then when the big things come, you will already have developed that skill. It's like anything in life, your muscles. If you practice little exercises, then when you need to use your muscles, they're ready for it. And the same with the mind. So the mind can be trained to be ready to accept and in fact be grateful for everything that comes, but practice in the little ways, and then you'll be ready for the big challenges.
And, you know, I'm sure you've had a day like this, I have, where you're kind of in a grumpy mood and everything goes wrong. You spill your tea, you knock over the computer stand, you know, and it's like a reinforcing cycle, you know. But at contrary, on the other hand, if you just say, I'm going to try to feel God's presence, and if I knock over the tea, okay, I'll just go clean it up. And then you'll see that things go more smoothly if you're accepting whatever comes. And we may have told you this story, but you know, about Swamiji one time when he was ill. Some of you may have heard it, some of you maybe not. Yeah. Do we have to get off soon? I don't know what our time is like.
I think
Okay.
that this is the last question that
But
you're answering
but
right
there's
now.
there's no
Okay.
There's no
Okay.
timer.
nothing is going to pull you off stage.
Okay. Sometimes there's a limit on the Zoom call.
Here.
So anyway, Swami, you know, he had so much physical karma, and he just handled it all with such grace, such grace. And one time he was living in Pune, and he became very, very ill. And he was just not doing well. And they didn't know what it was, but his pulse was getting very weak. And they took him to the hospital in Pune, and they said, you're in kidney failure. Your kidneys are not working. So they had to put him on dialysis, you know. And we were very worried. We were in America, and we called up his nurse, Miriam, and just to get an update, how is he doing? What's going on? And she said, well, and she was on her cell phone, her mobile. She said, I'm in the room, Swami's room now. Would you like to talk with him? And we said, if we can, we'd love to talk with him. So he got on the phone, and he was in bed, and, you know, he had all the tubes, both for fluid going in, Dr. Vani probably understands this more, and for the tubes for the kidneys and so forth. And what the first thing Swami said to us was not, oh, how terrible, oh, blah, blah, blah. He just said, they tell me I look like a plate of spaghetti with all the tubes coming out. And we just laughed and laughed because that's how he took it. You know, it wasn't for me and I've given my life to serving God. Why should this be happening? He just thought it was a funny thing, but here he was. So to just try to find God's joy no matter what, no matter what. Swami said there's a joy appropriate to every situation in life. Outwardly, it may be good, it may be bad, but underneath it, you can feel God's joy. And I think to sum up maybe everything we've said today, that's the point. Find God's joy in life just as it is. And if we can do that, when this pandemic passes away, we'll outlast it as a human race. When it's gone, we will have found the key to finding God's joy in every moment of our lives.
Swami normally led with kindness and joy and love, but on occasion he would get very strong with someone if they made a mistake spiritually or in perception and needed correction. And so, building on what Devi said, there was one time where he'd gone through a series of illnesses, one after another. And one of the people that were close to him said, half jokingly, but said to him, "Oh, Swami, it's just unfair what Divine Mother is doing to you." And he got very strong. He said, "Never say that. Never say that in my presence. Whatever Divine Mother does to me is done out of her love for me." So he got very strong in that moment. And it's a good precept for us to keep in mind. Whatever happens to us is done out of God's love for us. And if we take it in that vein, we'll rise above it.
So maybe we'll end now, and we just want to say how lovely it's been to see your dear faces, and we're sorry we won't be with you in person this year, but hopefully next year.
89
And,
people came tonight, which has already exceeded the capacity of our temple.
Ah,
89. Yeah.
So that's really great.
and that's computers. So,
Right.
so you know, you
Yeah.
look, and I see many couples that are watching. So, at any rate, yeah, we overflowed the temple.
Yeah, yeah. We were ready to overflow onto Facebook, but if we keep it under 100, then we
can
don't
keep
have to
it
do that. So
frozen.
now this stayed on Zoom.
You know, let's close just with a moment of prayer and meditation together. And let's just all sit quietly, withdraw our consciousness from the external world. We become centered within. Try to feel the energy in your spine, in your astral spine, moving up. Center briefly on the heart chakra and send love to everyone who's part of our conversation now, to everyone in your family, to your friends, to India, to the world. Now move the energy up to the throat center, the Shuddha chakra, and feel their peace. Feel peace permeating your being, your home, your work, your country. Now bring the energy to the spiritual eye and project there. First, feel within yourself God's light, radiant light, protecting, uplifting, blessing. And project that light out to your home and family, to your neighborhood, God's light, to your country, to India, to the world. Love, peace, and light. Protecting all the world, helping humanity rise upward and use this challenge as an opportunity to grow closer to our Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, the Guru Deva. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you for coming.
We look forward to doing this again.
We look forward to all squeezing into your living room another time. It was very deep and very.
I'm going to just open our blinds so that people can get a view of what many of you have been in our homes, but many haven't. So we'll turn the computer to show you what the view is like from here.
For this court?
Yeah.
That's okay.
So this is the view out our window
So
from our home, and
Yeah.
and this is our living room space and our little kitchen. So that's a quick tour of our house.
Oh,
We're
lovely.
very happy to have you over.
Yeah, and it wasn't too crowded even with 100 of us in the living room.
We couldn't offer you chai. I'm very sorry. Next time chai will come. Okay. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Thank you both. Thank you.